thank you. This is very fun. I don't know if you guys know what we're doing. We're doing a quick, well, maybe not even that quick, but we're going to have a quick chat about their films and about some comedy. My name is Matt. Thank you guys very, very much for coming out. I'm thrilled there's a baby here. That's our baby.
That's our baby.
Nice work.
We made
Thank
a
you.
film and a baby.
Wow.
Braggers. Just kidding. I'm really happy for you guys.
I just ate 4 pieces of cheese. So we're all accomplishing things. Okay, I guess we're going to use microphones, even though I'm sure that you could hear me if I did this, but it's more fun and official if we do this. I'm actually going to give you this balloon. I thought I was going to hold it, but now, nice catch. Couldn't agree more. So that's our first question. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah.
I guess probably the easiest way to start is, would you guys like to just give a quick little intro about your films?
Okay, I'm Andy Bullman, and I am the writer of Dead Wife Club, and it was directed by Shara King over here, and it was produced by Ashley Knight, and I want to say creatively produced. And our film is about a group of people who have lost their wives and come together and share in their grief, but it's not sad. That's the film.
I'm David Fian. I'm the writer, director, and one of the actors in CAPTCHA, which is about a young man, played by me, who comes across a CAPTCHA test online that says, "I'm not a robot," and he's about to click it, and then he considers. Maybe he's not sure. And then he has an existential crisis. That's CAPTCHA.
And I'm Catherine Vielguth. I'm in the film with David, but I also helped produce it.
Amazing. Can I ask you a question, Andy? Was the first draft of it sad? Was this ever a sad thing that jokes got added to it, or?
No, the first draft was actually a Nickel screenwriting challenge. I think it was like write a short film, 6 pages in 24, 48 hours sort of thing. And I did it really fast and sent it in and got to hear actors read it. I felt good about it. It's loosely based on a friend of mine who lost his wife, and he's not in it. He's not a character in it at all. But it definitely made me think like what an ideal grief circle would look like. And my ideal grief circle is pretty funny or pretty fun. Like it's like because I really think that comedy is like the sugar that makes the medicine go down. So that's. And thanks to the Nickel, I got this 6-page done, and then I met Shara. Shara was a first AD on Tales from the Floor Drope, which is a kid show, and I met Ashley on that set too. And I sent Shara the script, and Shara was like, "I love it. Picture start." And so it needs to be longer. And so I finished it. It really was a 3-way project. They shaped it very much. I am credited as a writer, but they very much shaped the story and had a lot of input. And they would say things like, "I don't think Mimi would say that." And I was like, "You're right." And that's how we work, and it's really fun. Yeah.
Okay, so it was literally one of those things that you had like a 24-hour cap and then made it into a picture star.
Yeah, that's right.
That is crazy.
It's pretty. We're pretty excited about it. Yeah, we're happy that it worked out like that. Yeah, I do want people to know that I've done lots of Nickel challenges that haven't turned into anything. I just want to give you realistic numbers here. But I like doing them, and I'm a big believer in them. Yeah.
And what about you guys? The intro, the very beginning, when you were in the writing phase, how did that look for you guys?
Yeah, so CAPTCHA, it was during COVID. It was probably March 2021, and we were living out in Calgary now, and so it was like full, I guess, lockdown at that time. You couldn't do a whole lot of anything, and we were all kind of isolated, and everyone was working from home on the computer all the time. And I was working home on the computer all day by myself in this little back room, and I actually came across a CAPTCHA test and was like, just started thinking about it, and I thought, oh, that would be funny, because I had this running monologue in my head about like, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. So then I went out in the other room and I put on the soundtrack for Blade Runner 2049, and it's like, boom, and I was like, am I a robot? I don't know. And then I just started writing it, and that's kind of like the skeleton of the film is the voiceover narration of this character. So that's kind of what drove it. And I think that I probably wrote in that day. The rest of it I kind of filled in and did throughout a longer process, but that kind of initial skeleton that is the narration was written pretty quickly. Yeah. And then Catherine, I was like, I think this is great. Can we do it? Should we do it? And
I said yes.
and she agreed.
No, please go ahead.
I think I answered the question.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But I mean, if anything else comes up,
Well,
fly
then it
back
was.
in.
I'll tell you more. I'll tell you a little bit more because
Sure.
you talked more, so I'll talk more.
Yeah, do it.
Well, and then we were like,
I just say, as a moderator, I love the way you guys are tackling this. This is great for me, also.
great. So, but yeah, so we went applied for a Calgary Arts Development grant. So that's how we funded it. I don't actually have much more to say, except that's how we funded it. Calgary Arts Development Grant, which was very nice. We were grateful to get that.
Catherine, at what point how early in the process were you aware of, and like, when did you kind of come in?
I mean, I feel like I'm a part of the process for so much of it. Like, even as we go to bed sometimes, David's like, we need to stop talking. I have an idea. And then he'll like write it out.
Oh yeah, we're married in real life.
Yes. Also
Not everyone
that.
here is.
right.
Yeah. Not everyone here knows
We're like,
us.
interesting writing process.
I should have teed that up. That's probably on me. I apologize. So when we're in bed, as all collaborators are,
We didn't work like that.
I mean, it works. No. And then I find like what David often does is once he has the idea and he writes it, then he'll read it out to me, and then I'll have ideas or thoughts and ways to shift it. But I feel like Capture was one of the ones where, David, it was such a clear idea and you wrote it in such a full perspective that it was just like ready to go. And it was just one of those things where it was like, yes, let's write the grant. Well, David wrote the grant and let's just go with it. It didn't actually need a lot of changes or thoughts or edits or anything really from me other than like, this is great. Let's run with it.
Yeah, and then when it came time to produce, like when we were actually getting into production, that's when Catherine kind of stepped in with like actually helping to logistically make the film happen, because it's such a complicated thing to hire people and find the locations and all that stuff. So that's when Catherine kind of like really jumps on and does that producing work.
how much did it change from first draft to what you ended up shooting with?
Not very much. Not very much at all. No, I think minor tweaks here and there. One big tweak actually that was really helpful. Darren Ivany, who's a writer and actor here in St. John's, I sent it to him for feedback, and there's one section in it where I get punched in the face and I bleed profusely. Spoilers. Sorry. And it's in this. It keeps playing over there, so if anyone looks up there, they're going to see me covered in blood. But originally, I had like a near miss. Like I try to get in a fight with someone, and then he's almost going to punch me, and then I run away. And I thought I did that because I wanted to avoid the makeup of all the blood and all that stuff, and also the stunt of getting punched. I was like, that's just too complicated, and then we're going to need a stunt coordinator, we're going to need this and that. And then Darren was like, oh, it'd be so much better if you got punched in the face and blood everywhere. And I was like, you're not wrong. So maybe I'll just write that in and then deal with it later. And then I went back to the storyboards and got a pencil and just like scribbled a bunch of blood all over my face to be like, yeah, he gets covered in blood. But it was better for it. So that was one, like, felt like a big change because it changed production a little bit more than anything else.
When you were on the day where you're like, I wish I didn't make this nose bloody, was it like a lot more of extra work? Was he right or wrong?
It was more work, but it was definitely worth it. Like they had the makeup artist, Audrey, had this big, almost like a turkey baster, like this syringe, but it was thick. And so she had this blood that was really, really thick and like molasses. And so she put it
And
up
I feel
in
like
my
she had
nose.
to keep it on ice. Like it was like, it had to stay cold.
Yeah. And so she injected it up my nose, and I'm just out of frame like this. And then they call action, and I'd stand up and start running. And then the blood would pour out. We did it like 4 times probably, and it was a lot. It went up. She was like, you're going to have blood crusty, stuck up there for, it was like a week. I kept like blowing my nose and it was all stuck up in there. And so in the time I was like, this is awful. But as soon as we did the first take and then I watched playback, I was like, oh, but it's worth it. Because the camera's in the back of a pickup truck driving backward or driving through an alley and I'm running after it and it's in slow motion. So the blood is like coming out of my nose in slow motion. I was like, yeah, worth it, but really gross. Because then it goes up the nose and then it starts coming into the throat. And I was just like, let's go, let's do it. But it was worth it.
I can't wait to see it. And it sounds very visceral. Where yours is like a big ensemble and there's like a lot of characters. What is it like writing all of those different voices and figuring out who everyone is?
Some of it's very easy. Like very early on, we had our character Dave. He was a grumpy guy, but he was also sweet. He said things at an inappropriate time. At inappropriate times, and we wrote it with Andy in mind. Or it was written, and then Cher and I were working on Sweetland, and Cher was like, "We gotta ask him, kind of thing." So it was kind of written with Andy in mind.
Is this Andy Jones?
Andy Jones,
Oh, cool.
yeah. And so that was something. I feel like I did an okay job of making each of the characters distinct and have separate voices, but I feel like the actors brought a lot. They brought backstories. Like Mark Power was like, and he's like this because of his father. And I was like, holy shit, that's better than what I thought of. Cher gave the actors a lot of freedom to make choices about their characters, and I feel like it makes it look like I did a better job than I did. Because we have since gotten some development money to write more scripts, trying to turn it into a web series. And as I'm writing, there are a couple characters where I'm like, these two characters are a lot alike, and I need to figure out how to differentiate them. Right. And the actors did a lot of the work, and they're not here now, and I got to do it, and I'm really feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was cool for me because I don't really direct, and it was cool for me to see Cher give them that freedom, and it was really cool to see how much backstory they came with. That was really, really neat because I've acted in things before and have thought about character a lot before, but I haven't necessarily thought about a character's entire life. And I did feel that the actors brought that, and it was really cool.
Yeah. Was there anyone who, like, their portrayal where you're like, oh, that's not what I had in mind, but that is crazy good, or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. Andy a little bit. Andy, I would say. Andy kind of brought this... he had such a backstory for his character, and he really was like, he was kind of like, this character has underdeveloped social skills and people have protected him from the world, and he doesn't know he has underdeveloped social skills. He has no idea that what he's saying is mean. And I kind of wrote the character thinking he did know that what he was saying was mean, and so it really shifted the portrayal of the character. Oh yeah. It was cool. Yeah, it really, and it changed how the other actors interacted with him. It was really neat. I was very grateful that we were able to work with such great actors. Mark Power brought such great energy too.
He's brilliant.
Yeah, he's awesome, and he brought so much backstory like we'd have to make it with him, I think. Like he's such a, it was just like they all did a really great job. Yeah, they deserve a lot of credit, definitely.
I did something one time, and Mark Power auditioned for it, and he was doing some improvisation during the audition, and he came up with a line that I actually used in it. It was so funny because one guy says, "Oh, I don't want to be a burden," and off the top he said, "A burden in the hand is worth two in the bush." And this is like in the middle of this like stressful audition scenario that I was like, "Wow, this guy is unbelievable. He's so funny,
so sharp." Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Mark Power also played Catherine's like alter evil ego in Matchstick, right? He was like right? Mike Farty, that's true? That's right. Mike Farty directed that film, and Catherine starred in it.
I'm really enjoying this
Can
Mark
confirm.
Power fan club this
Yeah,
turn.
yeah.
Yeah. We should tell him.
Right? You would like go into like your hypno mode.
I should remember, but Mike?
But yeah, but that's right.
Yeah.
When you went in that movie, when you
He
went
was the
into
one like telling me to murder.
do it, and then so there's a scene in that movie. We were both in that movie as well, and Catherine's character murders me brutally. But when she
Spoilers.
murders me, she turns into Mark Power, and then Mark Power stabs me, and then Catherine finds herself covered in blood. So yeah, he's a versatile guy.
Yeah.
He does it all.
Layers.
I think you're stepping on my cord. Yeah, he showed up with a knife. He showed up with a knife
Yeah.
that day, and he was like, "I'm going to do this," and I was like, "Oh, okay."
The old improvised murder. It's like, oh, this was a rom-com, but
Yeah.
now. Okay, the next question that they asked me to ask you is, if you were on a deserted island with Mark Power, what are 3 movies that you guys would bring? He is great, but I will shift focus. Okay, so all of you, that's clear, right?
It's probably not.
I think the lesson here is that you should say nice things to people's faces.
Yeah.
And here we are not learning that lesson. Haven't talked to him in 2 years, but I wish him well. I guess, okay, here's a question, because I think all of you guys are acting in this as well, and I'm wondering, all you guys are actor writers, and I would like this as kind of 2 separate parts, and you can, maybe we'll start with you, Catherine. How does your acting kind of inform your writing? Like, having acted, how does that change how you write? And I guess the opposite might be interesting as well. And if it's not, don't tell me, because I don't have that much confidence in my moderating.
I'm really lucky to have David. He does the majority of the writing, especially stuff that I've been in. I give feedback, but I don't write too much. But I'll say in the process of doing especially something like CAPTCHA, to be in the same space as the writer, there is so much wonderful prep of like, as an actor, you come in on set and you bring what you have, but with being with David, we could like run scenes out loud and then have conversations about it and say like, oh, I think these beats need to be faster, or, the character, especially in CAPTCHA, there's a scene at the end that's a bit off, not in the
good
writing.
way.
Yeah,
In a good way.
like the setting of the show. And I think as an actor, if I showed up on set, I wouldn't have known how to play that. But having the writer with me and talking it through, and then me giving David feedback of like, does this work, or I don't know how that'll play, we could really work together and figure it out. Or like in the script, some of my lines are just like blah, 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 literally. And being with the writer and figuring that out was so much easier as an actor because I got to be in the writer's mind.
Right.
But I can't speak too much about writing. It's not my strength. It's not my go-to. But acting with a writer is great.
Can you repeat the question again? What did you ask? How does writing and acting, how do they kind of work? How do they work together? Are you doing both?
How does working in one of those mediums inform your work in the other one?
Okay, yeah, no, I have a great answer for that. Well, no, it's because when I was at theater school, training to be an actor at the University of Alberta, where I met Catherine, we talked a lot about character motivations and objectives in every scene, and that the drama is coming from 2 characters who want something, and it may or may not be the same thing, but how their objectives and then their actions, which is the way that they approach or try to get those objectives, how they conflict and interact with each other is what makes good drama. So then when I'm writing, I'm like, as an actor, I've read enough scripts, whether plays or films or things that I'm auditioning for, where I'm always looking for in the script, okay, what does this character want in this scene? What are the obstacles to this? And when I find a really good script, I'm like, oh, the obstacles and the objectives and their actions are so clear. Their how they're trying to achieve them is so clear. And it's thrilling when you're an actor to be able to play a script where that's been thought out. So when I'm writing a script, I'm like, okay, why is this person saying this? How are they what are they doing in a way that's going to get their objective? And so I'm trying to make a script that I would find interesting if I was an actor and I picked it up and looked at it, because then I'm like, then I know I've done my job. If there's 2 characters with actual real drama going on, that would be interesting to either actor to play. So that's what I try and I think they really informed each other. I think going to theater school for acting made me a much, much better writer because I was looking at scripts with that perspective and then getting to build scripts knowing on the other side of it.
Yeah, I have had this thing in my life where I've either played been cast as dumb, silly character or a villain. I've been the Rat King in a Nutcracker so many times. So when we wrote this script, I wanted to play the therapist because I wanted to play a character where your main motivation is to keep everyone else kind of calm. But it is tricky to be the writer, especially if you're an actor, because I don't really see myself as an actor, but I definitely see myself as someone who wants to say the funny lines. And my character really wasn't that person. They're kind of more the keep everyone going. And so there was a few times where Ashley and Shara were kind of I don't think your character would say that. And then we had to give the line to someone else to say. So I actually do think it's kind of tricky to write yourself into a script because, your instinct is to kind of write yourself a great role. Mm-hmm. And actually, your character may not be the star. Your character might be... so I don't know if I would necessarily... I'm so funny because I'm I don't know if I would do it again. But actually, Sharon, we are currently working on a... Yeah, and we have written me into the script, so maybe we will keep doing it.
Did you know you're going to play that part when you wrote it?
Yeah, when we wrote it, I was kind of I reached out to Shara for Shara to direct, and then she was and Ashley to produce. And Shara was and you want to be the writer and Laurel, right? And I was yeah, that's what I want. So it worked out really great, though, because, like I said, the script really evolved as a partnership. And the role really, the character changed so much because of everyone's input. It was really neat for me because I'm normally a selfish writer sitting in my room by myself, and this was really, really collaborative, and it was awesome. And a neat way to do things because it's sometimes hard to find people to collaborate with. You end up arguing about the idea or not seeing eye to eye. And with this, I kind of just sort of went, yeah, I'm wrong sometimes. And it was really, really refreshing. Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Can I say one more thing, too, about writing and acting?
Of
Just because you were talking about that, and it's I feel as an actor, if you are writing something as well, you got to write a part for yourself. It's only fair, I think, because it's so hard to be an actor, to go out and audition and face so much rejection. And if you have the skills and ability to write as well, and then you have the people to collaborate with and make a film, and then you're I'll sit out this one, I won't act in it. It's I don't know. I think if you want other people to bet on you as an actor and cast you in things, you got to be willing to bet on yourself too.
Yeah,
I think that's really true.
There's something to that, yeah.
And there's also there's not that many parts.
There's not.
There's not very many parts.
And everybody wants to act.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, not everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah.
You want to act. You want to act. You want to act. Yeah. Elling wants to act.
Ellen, you're such a good actor. But I totally agree with that. I just think it can feel weird writing for yourself because you're just I'm a egotistical maniac and I've written myself apart. But at the end of the day, it's going to be fun. Of course you want to be a part of it. Yeah.
I have kind of done that same thing, and I have wrestled with them this, and I kind of landed on this feels kind of gross, and I don't care.
Yeah.
And if it's really bad, if you make a really bad film and you're acting in it and you're wow, I'm not doing well in this.
Yeah.
Then maybe don't do it again. You know what I mean? Then you can learn from that. But I don't know.
I also think too the way you write, David, is the characters you're writing and thinking what they're thinking, and so the roles that you write for yourself, it's you would perform it best because you know the details of exactly what they're thinking. That someone else coming in, it's hard to have someone else play that role because you just know that role from inside out.
Yeah, and that's for your character in this film. If because you when you wrote it, you probably thought, how am I going to say this, or how is it said? And then if you had to bring someone else in and listen to them say it 20 times, you'd be why are they saying it like that?
Although
he's saying you,
I
but
did
he's
love
thinking him.
I'm thinking myself, but I'm putting it on you.
I did love being surprised in the audition room. like auditioning, I think all of us would agree was like the scariest or maybe the most challenging part, because you have to say no to some people, and that sucks. You kind of want to give everyone a part, and it's an ensemble piece. So I was like, there was a voice in my head that was like, well, I can write more parts, like, but we didn't have enough money, so we couldn't. But yeah, it sucks casting, but I found that there was a lot of surprise in it. Like people would say the lines, and I'd be like, whoa, like I never thought anyone would come here and say it like that, and it's good. And so I did sort of love being surprised by what actors brought. It was cool.
Absolutely. You guys have been collaborating. Holy shit. Collaborating. Crab rating, yes. For a long time. How has your kind of collaborative partnership changed over the years?
I would say it's stayed relatively the same, but through the conflict or through the we've just figured out how to communicate and continue to figure out how to communicate and brainstorm together. Hey, Jack. In the sense of giving one another ideas. If we trigger each other, we can say okay, I don't actually want your idea right now, or I don't want to fix. And then we can sidebar and have a whole conversation of why is one of us triggered? What's going on? What's the root of it? Oh, here? Okay, let's next time try again. I think it definitely takes a lot of time and energy. And I think both of us at certain points are this again. But we're really good communicators with one another. So when it comes back to collaborating, it's quite seamless and easy, especially being on set at that point. When we're in front of people, we're clear of how we want to show up as a united front.
Yeah, and I think for me in particular, it took some checking of my own ego of I would write something or have a line, and I'd be like, this is how I'm going to say it, and then I would ask Catherine for her opinion, and she'd give me her opinion, and it would be I don't think it's working, and I'd be like, well, you don't know. You don't know. You didn't write it. You're not thinking about the way it's going to be perceived in the film. And then I think now I'm she wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. If she, you know what I mean? And then it's okay, I'm actually going to go back and revisit this. But there is that initial thing of wait, you don't think what I did is perfect? What's going on? Do we have a problem in our relationship? But no, it's but it's so, now I feel I so appreciate it, especially on set. When I was for CAPTCHA, when I'm writing and directing, acting and directing. So I'll do something, and then as soon as the take is done, I'll be like, Catherine, is that what I was going for when we talked about it? That's what. And so she's an outside set of eyes the whole way through the process, the whole way through, and even into editing, I'll be like, here's what I'm thinking. She'll be like, that's kind of slow, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, if the question is what's changed, I think just the development of trust in each other. Even in the number of times for me performing on camera and David being no, I think it's got to be like this. I think it's got to be like this. That I've done it enough times now that if I trust him and I see the final product, it's we know to trust each other's opinions because we've had enough projects where it turns out positive, where we're not shooting smoke up each other's bums or, whatever.
And we have each other, and we do it, we use each other for auditions too, right? Self-tapes at home.
Right, yeah.
So we're always directing each other so much. And it's it's been years and years of practice.
Very cool. And this is a new creative partnership for you.
Yeah, it's new, but we've had conflicts.
I love that everybody wants to talk about their fights. I love it.
No, not totally, not really. We more just have had we all are pretty involved in the creative process, so it's totally okay for me to talk visual language to Shara, and it's totally I welcome notes from both of them. It's very I'll write a script, send it to them, they send me back notes. I in my house will be grumpy for 2 minutes, and I'm like, God, their notes are right, and then I'll start rewriting. And that's that is the creative process for us. And but the conflicts, I think, I'm trying to kind of think about them, there hasn't been too many. I think there have been moments where I've been like, don't tell me what to write. And then kind of a couple weeks later, I've been like, hey, I'm so sorry about that. But that's kind of the end of it. I think as a team, we're pretty good. And that feels good because it is really hard to find collaborators.
Very much so.
Yeah, and I also think conflict is part of it, and I think the biggest thing is to learn not to shy away from it, to sort of be able to call up someone and be like, hey, I had a problem with what you did, and then once you have that chat, it's all out in the open. But I think we're just taught to squash that, and so actually chatting has been very helpful. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Collaborating wise, I'm also in Mom's Girls. That's Allie's mom there. And we've collaborated as a team for 4 or 5 years now, maybe longer. And same thing with them. Any conflicts that we have, they happen. We had a conflict in Toronto Sketch Fest. I carried the props, Steph and I carried the props to Toronto, couldn't fit all the props in the bag on the way home. And then asked Allie to pick this baby that's definitely haunted, this this old baby doll, if she could take it to the train back to Montreal. And she's like, it doesn't fit in my bag. And I was like, it doesn't fit in my bag. And that was the biggest fight Mom's Girls has ever had.
About a haunted baby doll?
And now everyone calls it Babygate. And I laugh about it so much because it honestly is the biggest creative conflict we've had.
Yeah.
And that's nice in a way. That's a really nice feeling. Because
how did the baby get home? I don't want to blow past this.
Liz, who's definitely the most mature of all of us, took the baby and it stayed with her in Toronto.
So it's still there. It never came home.
To be fair, it is Liz's childhood baby doll.
Oh, well. Yeah, I mean, that seems like the proper resolution.
100%.
I think you're good.
It's just on the way here, I walked through with 3 cowboy hats on and a baby, and I was just can't go through airports like this, you guys. We have to divide the props. So yeah, it was anyway, creating and collaborating is tough.
It is funny when you're making anything, because I've seen people get into an argument while wearing a banana costume, and it was serious.
Yeah.
Well, I guess speaking from that, from you, where you've written a lot of stand-up and a lot of sketch, how is this different?
It's longer. We're trying to get into writing longer things now. So web series and trying to want to write a Hallmark movie. Sharon and I just worked on a Hallmark movie, and we're hopefully going to write a romantic Christmas Hallmark movie. That's a plan for this year. And so we're trying to write longer things. And it's impossible to think about. You're just how can you care about something for 90 pages? It is an insurmountable amount of pages. But it needs to happen because you can only make, you can make shorts till you die. You can. But at some point you want to transition into TV or features or something longer. And making that transition is really, really, really hard because you have to overcome your fears and your doubts. You have to create characters you like long enough to work on it for 3 or 4 months. And so we're just adjusting and learning how to do that. And I think we're going to get there, but it's definitely tough. It's tough to have something that's I have a few scripts on my computer that are 30 pages long, and I just don't care about them. I just don't know what to do with them. Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah. Length is really hard to overcome. Yeah.
Well, everybody seems to like watching videos that are 8 seconds long now anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Maybe it'll be okay.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah. TikTok's becoming so... maybe that's it. Maybe we'd shift focus. I don't know.
Oh, no. I'm doing a horrible job at this. And I'm hey, maybe we should all pivot to TikTok. Welcome to the Nickel Film Festival, everyone. We are so glad that you are here.
Film is dead.
Film is dead.
Guys, this baby is so cute.
I know, it's crazy. You ever try to ask a serious question and there's a baby wearing a knitted Superman cape pretending to soar by the window? This would make an amazing TikTok. Here's a weird... How has being a parent changed you as filmmakers? What have you learned from parenting that you would apply to this?
Good question.
Thank you.
Do you have anything?
I mean, the initial thing that comes to my mind is like just the shift in priorities of like making stuff and putting our attention on that and like banking on that begins to feel a bit more risky now that we have a baby that we're responsible for. But I think on the flip side, like there's one side that makes it feel like, oh, are we risking more now because we have a baby than we did when it's just the two of us, like financially in the future. But there's also such a part of like, I want Jack to grow up and know and believe that he can do whatever he wants and he can make it work. So it's up to us to continue to like follow our dreams and make it work for us and be that example for him. So I think on the flip side, it stays balanced of like, no, we got to keep making and creating and following our dreams because I would want nothing less or nothing more for Jack. I want Jack to follow his dreams.
That's good. That's a good answer. I don't know if I have anything. Maybe the only thing I would say is like it maybe has made me more, not more productive, but more productive in a short amount of time because it's like, oh, he's napping, get it done now. Whereas in the past, it would be like, oh, I can finish that script whenever, I can write that whenever. And now it's like, he's napping, that's an hour and a half, let's go. Like
Yeah.
I need to get it done now. Or similarly, as an actor, if I have a self-tape to do, I can't spend way more time. Now it's like he goes down for a nap or Catherine's sister's taking him for a walk. That's the time we have. Get it done, move on. Like you kind of just pay a little more attention to time, the time you have, and managing that when you have something that really requires your attention and is more important than the tape or the film. Yeah.
I would say too, I'm very aware now of the stories about kids or parents or like my whole life I always thought I'd have girls, and now that I have a son and I see stories of like mom and son relationships, I never thought twice about them or connected with them, but now I'm like, oh my God, like my heartstrings for those types of stories are like, it's so much more live and visceral for me. And so I imagine moving forward as an artist and a creator and an actor, if those roles were to come to me or I was a part of a story that involved parenthood or children and that sort of storyline, I would approach it 100% differently and with 1,000% more emotion than before.
That makes sense. I get that. I have a friend who would like, she can't watch Lady Bird because it makes her too angry. It's like a very weird mom relationship, I think, too triggering in that sense.
That was like we watched a Muppet Christmas Carol for the first time since having Jack this Christmas, and I was like, when the Tiny Tim scenes are happening, I was like, just like, ah, like it's always been sad, but now it's sadder.
Yeah, I get that. I can't watch Air Bud because I have a dog and it's and it sucks at basketball. Okay, I would maybe like to ask another little question. This is of interest to me about when you producing or directing, when you are acting, it's you don't have the liberty of being behind the gates for everything. So how do you kind of balance that you know what you're going to get from when you really can't? You're doing two things at once, and it's not exactly. It's more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, well, with Dead Wife Club, I didn't really have that problem. Ashley was producing. But one thing that they did, which I think was really smart, was last minute panicky things that were happening, they kept from me because I was acting. And they didn't want it to. And certain other things, they reached out to Hawksley Workman and asked him if he would do a song or do the sound music for our film. And I'm just really excitable. And so they were like, we won't tell her unless this happens. And that was totally the right thing to do. Totally. Because I was delighted and I would have been really sad. and I think there was a last minute emergency. I feel like the walls wouldn't come down in the building. So we went and location scouted this amazing place to shoot all the therapy scenes. And then it had these like fake cubicle walls. And I guess the night before at like midnight, the two of them and maybe one or two people were in there just panicking because they couldn't get these cubicle walls down. And I was like, man, I'm so glad you didn't call me. So glad. Great call. And so they did a lot of just like naturally, I think both of their instinct is to like protect the actor. And I certainly never produced anything I was acting, and I cannot understand. I bet that's hard. Yeah, yeah, I bet that's real hard.
I've done it a few times now, and I think that I just kind of dial in the performance months in advance. Like I feel like with CAPTCHA, I pretty much knew what I wanted to do as an actor as I was writing it, and then as we were in pre-production, I was like, this is how I'm going to do it. But then I had the fortunate thing of like with Catherine before shooting, rehearsing scenes, and being like, Catherine, I think I'm going to do it like this. What do you think? And so for us to be able to do that in advance, I feel like on the day as an actor, I didn't have to think, how am I going to do this? I just had to think, okay, forget about everything else and let's just drop into that moment that I rehearsed. Not replicate what I rehearsed, but like, what's that thing at the top of the scene that I do? Because now I've had the script in my head for a year and a couple months by the time we shot it. And so I knew what it was for so long. And I knew all I had to do was make sure that I was believing it in the moment as opposed to like, directing it. And then again, really fortunate to have Catherine on set. And for all the scenes that she's not in, she was always like there that I could check in with her to be like, is that working? And same thing with my first AD, Spencer Estabrooks out in Alberta. He was a similar set of eyes because he's a director too. So anytime that I was unsure of something in my performance, I had someone to bounce things off. And it's like, it was like prep as an actor, but then as a producer and director too, I just had to make sure like, I wrote a list, like I had a running list that I wrote a few days before that was literally like, I think we started the first day at 5:30 a.m. So it was like 4:30, get up and shower, drink coffee, eat this, get to the bathroom before people arrive. Like every single thing, like do this, change into this costume, do this, do this, perform this scene. Such and such an actor is going to arrive. Greet them and talk to them. Make sure they're cool. Like I had it and I put it in my back pocket, so I didn't have to worry about like the producing logistics of things because I had that list. Because Catherine was also handling so much of that stuff. And because I had storyboarded everything very meticulously, met with my DP in advance, location scouted with him and said, we're shooting this, it's gonna be like this, it's gonna be like this. We took photos. So like, it was pretty finely tuned on the day to the point that we finished early both days and had time before the last shot of the second day. We shot it in 2 days. Before the last shot of the second day, Shay, our DP, was like, we should just take some time off. Can we have a long lunch? Because this last scene of the day is outdoors, and if we shoot it at 4 p.m., the sun's going to be too high in the sky. It's not going to look good. So I was like, I guess we'll do a bit of a longer lunch. And then when we came back, it was like shoot everything else and then get this last shot in the sun that looks good. And we just took our time. Like we had to take our time at the end because it was so like, and I'm not going to shoot something I don't need. Like it was I very planned meticulously, but I don't plan post-production meticulously. And that dragged on for months and months and months. But like the shoot, I was like, I got to be on it because I'm directing and acting at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say planning ahead and finding the pitfalls before they happen is exactly like our success. Even with the acting, there were some scenes that we were rehearsing and then we realized like David needs to know the timing of the looks and the conversation. And then that was like a lot of work that we did before shooting that had that happen on the day, like he either would have performed and we just would have crossed our fingers that it would work with the story, or taken the time to do it, which would have pushed us really late. So finding those pitfalls and knowing the plan, like even David says like planning meticulously, like for him to wake up and eat breakfast and do this, but also we would chat beforehand and talk about like, okay, I'm going to take the car to the second location and I'm going to have craft in my back car and then we're going to have this person. Like we would talk through the days so clearly, and then we'd find a pitfall of like, oh my God, we won't have a car back at our place, or someone won't be back at our place with a key. Okay, so we were solving problems by visualizing the days in advance. So that planning was our success.
But I still got left at a location. We got to one. We finished at the what for serves as the therapist's office in the film, and then Catherine went back to make sure that lunch was on early at our place and unlocked the door to our house because we were shooting the last bits there. And then everyone was leaving the therapist's office, and she was on in the car. Someone was biking, and then the truck that was full of gear was too full, and like the key grip and the gaffer were both in it. And I was like, "Can I hop in the vehicle?" And they were like, "Our vehicle's full. It's full of all the gear. We don't have any space." So then I had to like sit on the curb while everyone went to lunch and like call Catherine and be like, "Can you get Sebastian, like our PA or like someone to come back and get me because I can't get back." So then that was the one time that we totally dropped the ball. Forgot the director at the place. But yeah, prep.
Well, I mean, that's no big deal. You're just the director and the actor. It's not Okay. I think we're out of time. Is that correct? Yeah. More or less? Okay. Okay, maybe just to end it real quick, do you guys have what did you learn from this? Just real quick.
From this panel? From talking to you?
Sure. Yeah.
I think we learned that we really like ensemble pieces, and I think that we really learned. I would say that we really enjoy symmetry in our shots as a team. That's something that we really enjoy. I think that that would be pretty. I think we work well together. I think too, I think that we learned that something we really enjoy is dark humor, and that's sort of where we're gonna live as we continue to write things. I think that's fair. Yeah.
Very cool.
I'd say I learned, I mean, maybe we learn this every time, but the process of producing CAPTCHA was exhausting, getting locations and hiring and in the midst of COVID, and people were dropping like flies. There was a lot of times where it was like, oof, is this worth it? Is this worth it? But now that we're doing the festival circuit and it's just so fun and so rewarding, I would say what I learned is yet again, it's worth it to keep creating and get the payoff of having a film to show people and go across Canada and going to festivals and meeting other filmmakers. Like it's worth it.
Back to what I just said before, it's like prep is so important, and my biggest lesson was like that I do need to prep the post-production process. Like I need to kind of schedule that as meticulously as I do everything else, because it's so easy. I don't know if this happened to you, but it's so easy to be like, I'll edit it next week, or I'll do this. And
I didn't really have much to do with the post-production.
Okay. But then you're trying to line up schedules with like someone else to color it and someone to do the sound and someone to do the music. And like that does not have the same urgency that production does, because producing, it's 2 days, prep for these 2 days. And then when does the film have to be done? Well, technically it doesn't matter. Yeah. And then it takes months, and you're like, I want to have it planned better in the future of what is the post-production schedule, and can I stick to it and have everything line up the same way, because it'll just be less stress and you'll finish in a more timely manner. I think that's it for me.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys very much for sitting in with us. We really appreciate it. And what a nice round of applause for our filmmakers. Congratulations, guys. And have fun.